So recently my husband, Mr. Gamer, asked me if I was afraid of losing my job at Aquarium Co-Op because AI, or artificial intelligence, has been used to write blog posts, which is what I get paid to do. So I decided I'm gonna challenge ChatGPT with 5 of the hardest questions I've gotten about fish keeping recently. Hi, I'm Irene with girltalksfish, and question number 1 is, how do you cycle an aquarium? I picked this answer because there are like so many ways to do this, and the internet and beginners and veterans often don't agree on what to do. So let's see what ChatGPT said. Wow, okay, first of all, it is a step-by-step guide. So, kind of explains what cycling is a little bit. Their method is set up all the equipment, fill with water. Add an ammonia source. So they're going off with fishless cycling, which is the current favorite method on the internet, by using ammonia, pure ammonia, a fish food, raw shrimp, some kind of organic source for beneficial bacteria to break down. However, they do not mention adding some source, like a seed source, for the beneficial bacteria, which will really help kickstart this method. Otherwise, you're gonna be waiting forever. Fishless cycling using just ammonia has never worked for me, at least within the time span of 2 months. So I personally nowadays like to put a cycled sponge filter or filter media into the new aquarium. I will add in Fritz-Zyme 7, which is another source of beneficial bacteria to, again, seed the tank. I will put in live aquarium plants, which is another form of biological filtration. It's also a lot prettier than looking at an empty tank. And then finally, I will slowly add the animals and not like dump all of them all at once, just to make sure the system can handle it. Question 2, how much food should I feed my aquarium fish? I find this kind of hard to explain to beginners sometimes, so maybe the computer can do better. Wow, okay, so that's a lot of instructions. Like, we're talking about parts 1 through 8. I told you it's hard to explain to beginners, but basically it says start with a small amount, feed what they can consume in 2 to 3 minutes. Variety is important. Okay, I'll give it points for that one. So the problem with the package instructions of feed what your animal can eat in 2 to 3 minutes is some fish are like piranhas, like my platies. They will eat everything in seconds, and I'm not going to keep giving it food until they, what they can finish in 2 to 3 minutes. That'd be way too much food. Versus other animals, maybe they're very shy, they're nocturnal, and they only come out at night to eat, or they like to graze all day. They're not gonna eat anything in 2 to 3 minutes in that case. I recently made a video on how to properly feed your fish, and in it I describe basically you do what you do when you go to the vet office and they show you that obesity chart for dogs and cats, and basically when you look down at them, you want their abdomen area to be kind of slightly rounded, not too much, not too little. So same thing with fish. I would start with a small amount. If their belly gets kind of more of a sunken look, I would increase the portion size. If their belly is way swollen and bloated and they're not sick, then I would decrease the portion size. But yeah, you want that slightly rounded abdomen for your fish. Let's go way controversial. How much nitrate should be in an aquarium? Ooh. Okay, so it is saying 40 parts per million for freshwater tanks and below. For sensitive species, maybe 20 ppm or below. So I made a video, if you didn't see it, about nitrate, and in it I referenced a research article where basically after you convert the scientific measurements into hobby measurements for nitrate, the guppy fry reach lethal levels of nitrate at around like 800 to 1000 ppm of nitrate. And again, that can really vary for species, but that kind of tells you how much nitrate ballpark is considered lethal. And so I personally will change water absolutely if it's like 80 to 100 ppm for animals, but let's get a little more specific and see what it thinks about nitrate for planted tanks. So if you didn't know, plants actually need nitrogen, and nitrate is one of the sources they can consume. And so this article is saying 10 to 20 parts per million. I actually personally, and again, maybe it depends on the fertilizer you're using. I'm using Easy Green all-in-one, and I will dose to like 20 to 50 ppm is kind of the nice area where I like to make sure my plants have not only enough nitrate, but also all the other trace elements and macronutrients that the plants need in order to stay healthy. So bottom line, you do not need to keep like 0 ppm nitrate in your aquarium, especially if you have plants, unless you're keeping some kind of crazy specialized species. This question is not common per se, but I've seen it as a recent internet trend. So I want to know, should pea puffers be kept alone or in a school? Ooh, this is interesting. I think it's kind of a balanced answer, more in line with what I believe, but basically saying they're kind of aggressive and territorial, even toward their own species, especially the males. So they recommend keeping them alone or maybe a pair with one male or female. And then if you do want to keep multiple pea puffers together to get a larger tank with more volume, plenty of hiding spots, and visual barriers. So absolutely agree with that last point. The general rule of thumb I've heard has been like your first pea puffer gets 5 gallons and then 3 gallons for every additional pea puffer. So maybe a 10-gallon tank could have 3 dwarf puffers and then a 20-gallon, maybe 6 to 7 puffers. It mentioned a 1-to-1 ratio of 1 male to 1 female. I would like to see more of a 1 male to every 2 to 3 females. Those males can be a little nasty, but unfortunately, when you go to buy pea puffers in the fish store, they're usually all juveniles and it can be harder to sex them. And so you'll bring a bunch home and then now you've got to rehome any extra males that you have. It's like this whole ordeal, which is why I put pea puffers on my top 10 list of intermediate fish, because they do come with some caveats that you should be aware of. So this question is a doozy. I have not really heard a good answer for this, even from a vet talk that I heard about fish on how to treat this particular disease. But I want to know, how would ChatGPT treat velvet or gold dust disease for freshwater fish? Okay, this is another really long answer with 8-part steps. Okay, quarantine, increase the temperature to speed up the life cycle. Dim the lighting. Okay, we agree on that. Treat with medication. So what do they recommend? Malachite green, copper sulfate, or formalin. So what I've usually seen on the internet is people recommending UV sterilizers, and then yes, stronger medications like copper-based ones that are usually pretty harsh on fish and can be detrimental to them, especially if the fish is already weakened. I personally have not dealt with this disease, but Aquarium Co-op, Corey, our founder, he had some glass catfish and he treated them by, I believe, a blackout of 7 days. So you basically wrap the whole aquarium up in a trash bag or some kind of tarp, because one of the juvenile phases for this external parasite is photosynthetic, so they require light to grow. He also treated the water with salt, so normal sodium chloride salt, not marine salt, and he did 1 rounded tablespoon per 1 gallon of water, or 1 cup of salt for every 20 gallons of water, and that was able to cure them. So not foolproof, this is just his personal experience, but pretty exciting that he tried something and everybody has access to salt and some kind of, blanket or tarp. Just be aware that some fish are sensitive to salt, like anchor catfish, so if you are afraid, you might want to slowly ramp up that salt amount. So how did ChatGPT do? Well, I think AI is really good at combing the internet to find out what the most popular opinions are, but well, as we all know, the internet is not always right, especially when it comes to controversial issues where people have many differing opinions and experiences on what worked best for them. So you let me know what you think down in the comments, whether I'm in danger of losing my job. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.